Hey everybody, what's going on? Jerma here with a tutorial video today. I get at least one or two messages a day asking me, Jerma, how do you record? What are your settings? How do you do this? I'm new to YouTube. Can you teach me this? Can you teach me that? So this is going to be a video for those people, and if you just happen to stumble upon this video in a search, how are you? My name is Jerma, and I'm going to teach you how to make a gameplay commentary. This is going to be a complete, comprehensive guide. I'm not going to cut any corners. I'm going to show you every single thing you need to know. And before we get started, I need to say this. This is only for the PC. This is not going to be a guide for the Xbox, for the PS3, or for the Mac. I don't use Mac, and I don't have any consoles. So I'm sure you can find some other comprehensive guides out there for consoles or for a Mac version. Alright, so let's jump right into this here. Step 1 of 4. There's going to be 4 steps for this, guys. Step 1 is equipment. This is incredibly important. Probably the most important part of the entire guide is the equipment. And let me start by saying that you are going to need all of these things. Not one of them, not two of them, not one or maybe half of one of them. You're going to need all of these things to be taken seriously. You see a lot of guys do gameplay commentaries out there that you kind of can tell they didn't really put a whole lot of effort into their equipment or into anything that they were doing. So please, please, guys, if you want to be on a somewhat professional, somewhat serious level, you need every single one of these. The first thing you're going to need is a video screen capture recording software. I use Fraps. There are a lot of other programs out there, but this guide is going to specify Fraps and how I use Fraps. So Fraps is the number one thing you're going to need. The second thing you're going to need is a audio recording program. I use Audacity. There are also countless amounts of audio recording softwares out there. Audacity is free, and it does the job well. The next thing you're going to need is a video editing program. Now, let me just very, very briefly tell you guys, do not use Windows Movie Maker. Windows Movie Maker and iMovie are great for putting together a picture collage of your family or of your baby sister walking up and down the stairs. But for gameplay commentaries, you want to be able to have a lot of options, and you don't want to be limited by these free, crappy programs, because that's really what they are. Let's be honest with ourselves here. They're very, very just limited, crappy programs. So you're going to need real video editing software. So which one do you buy? Which one do you pick? That's the age-old question, guys. People have been talking about this for years. Which one of the editing programs is the best editing program? There are fan bases of all these editing programs, but pretty much the top 3 are Final Cut, Premiere, Sony Vegas, and Avid. Those are the 4 top editing programs for computers. I recommend Adobe Premiere Pro. That's what I use. I've used it for years. It's always been great. But it really doesn't matter. This just comes down to personal preference. How you learn the program, some features that one has that the other doesn't. It's really personal preference. They're all pretty much identical programs. The final thing you are going to need for equipment is, you guessed it probably, a microphone. Now, let me just tell you that your laptop microphone is not going to cut it. Neither is your 1997 Logitech desk microphone. So don't skimp on this part, guys. This is really important. I found if you go into your favorite GameStop, you don't have to buy a $500 condenser microphone. You really don't need to. This is what I have. I have a CO1U USB condenser microphone. That's what I do for my post commentaries. That's what I'm recording on right now. It's great. It's about 4 years old, and there's a lot of other options that are probably better now. If you want to buy a good, expensive microphone, you're probably going to have to spend somewhere around $100. Now, you don't have to do this. It is not completely necessary. If you, like I said, walk into GameStop, your local GameStop, they have Turtle Beach headsets there with the microphones attached, and it sounds perfectly fine. No one is going to know the difference. You're going to be fine. Those headsets are only about $50 as well, so that's okay. Cost. Now that I brought up cost, let's talk about it for a second. This is going to cost you real money. To be able to be on the professional level, on the high-quality level, guys, you're going to have to spend somewhere around like $300 or $400. That's a lot of money for some of you guys. But it's a completely necessary investment. If you are going to be serious about this, if you're going to tell yourself, okay, I want a good quality editing program, I want high-quality microphone, and I want a good screen capture software, and I'm going to get serious with this because I want to be taken seriously, then you have to spend the money. And here's the problem. Adobe Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro, and I think Sony Vegas 8, they're all at least $400, $500 to buy them. Now, I'm not going to recommend torrenting any of these programs because a lot of people know that these are high-end, very, very well sought-after programs, and you can get yourself a pretty bad virus by doing torrenting. So be careful when you try and torrent these programs if you're going to. I don't recommend it, and I don't condone it either because I'd rather support the companies that are giving us these opportunities to make this great stuff. But don't freak out, though, because these same companies make lower-quality, lower-end programs that are designed to do the exact same thing as their professional counterparts. For instance, Adobe Premiere Pro has a version called Premiere Elements, and that version is only $99 rather than $600. And really the only thing you'd be losing out on is some of the more professional, independent filmmaker type features that you would get in the Pro version. I have the Pro version, like I said, but that's only because I went to school for film and television, so I kind of had to get it, and I kind of had to learn it. But you really don't have to. Step 2 now on how to become a gameplay commentator is how to actually use all this stuff we just bought or downloaded. This is Fraps. This is the UI of Fraps. General, FPS, movies, and screenshots. The only one you're going to be really concerned about is movies here, guys. This is determining where everything goes and all the settings and everything like that. The first setting here. This is where all your movie files will be saved. I have mine set for a different hard drive. If you don't have 2 hard drives, make it somewhere you'll remember because you don't want it in some mess of other documents. The next setting is Video Capture Hotkey. This is the button you press when you actually want to record. And if you see in the top left corner, I set it like this. It's not always going to be like this. That's the frames per second that you're getting when you actually record. It's red when you record. Now, the most important part of this UI is the capture settings. Let me just tell you briefly how all this works and why you'd choose things and why you wouldn't. Always pick 30 frames a second. If you pick 60 frames per second and you plan on uploading to YouTube, those 60 frames will be automatically dropped down to 30 frames every single time. YouTube recompresses your video, so don't spend all the time capturing 150 frames or some custom setting or 60 or 50. Always pick 30 because it's not going to matter anyways. Unless, of course, you're making a montage to upload somewhere other than YouTube, always have it be 30 frames per second. Now, onto the full screen or the half screen, half size or full size. Basically what this does is if you click full size and you start recording, you're going to record the entire full size aspect ratio of your screen. So if you're playing at 1920 by 1080, you're going to record 1920 by 1080. If you pick half size, that means that it's going to let you play at 1920 by 1080, but it's going to record the footage at half of that size. This is really important if you plan on uploading for 720p and you love playing at 1080. I like to play all my games at 1080 because I like how 1080 looks, so I usually record in half size, and then I upscale the footage in my editing program into 720p. It's actually fairly easy. The only real reason to record in full size is if you're playing at the aspect ratio that you want to upload to YouTube. So let's say you're playing at 1280 by 720, which is 720p. Then if you record full size, you're recording at 1280 by 720. You don't have to upscale. You don't have to do anything crazy. Or if you want 1080p footage and you play at 1920 by 1080, that's another reason to use full size. Keep in mind, playing at full size higher than 1280 by 720 and higher than 30 frames per second will get you massive amounts of data. You're going to need a huge hard drive if you plan on playing and recording in 1080. or at higher than 30 frames per second. Just something to keep in mind. So you've recorded your footage with Fraps, and now you're ready to actually record your voice. So what do? You're going to open up Audacity, make sure your microphone is plugged in, and first do a test recording. Play around with the levels, make sure your settings are okay, make sure the microphone is selected, and just talk. Make sure you can actually hear yourself. Once you have a good test, once you have some good levels there, minimize Audacity, and then bring up your editing program. Now, unfortunately, guys, I can't give a tutorial on how to use the actual editing program because there are so many different variants, there's so many different settings. I only know how to use my program and maybe one other's. So if you have a program, let's say you have Vegas and I have Premiere, the presets and all the settings are going to be completely different, and I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly where to go to find them. But the number one things you need to know when you are bringing your footage into your editing program is to make sure that, number one, progressive scan is selected and that it's at 30 frames per second. Those are the two most important things because when you're recording off of a screen, off of a monitor, you're recording progressive scan footage. It's not interlaced. So when you see upper field first, lower field first, get rid of that. Make sure that progressive scan, no fields, is selected. Now, some of these editing programs only allow you to really do that when you're exporting and rendering your footage. So once you figure out all your settings, we can finally start commentating. Basically, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to come over. It's pretty universal to all editing programs. File, import, and you want to navigate to your Fraps folder, and then it's the Movies folder in your Fraps folder. So find your files here. There might be a lot of them because Fraps breaks the files down into 4 gig splits. So if you have a lot of footage and you record it at a high frame rate or at a high resolution, you're going to find that there'll probably be a lot of files here, broken into maybe 1 or 2 minutes each. Once they're imported, grab them, drag them over to the timeline. It's pretty universal, like I said before, over all these editing programs. Come on down to Audacity, bring it up, hit the record button, minimize it, and then hit play on your gameplay and just start talking. That's how you do it. It'll all record on Audacity. All you have to do is just watch the gameplay, talk about it. And guys, if you screw up a little bit, if you mess a lineup, if you kind of mess it, you're like, oh, that was stupid, that kind of sucked, just stop, go back down to Audacity, hit the stop button, and start again. It's unlimited. And if you get halfway through a gameplay, let's say that you have 6 minutes of gameplay and you get to like 4 minutes and you screw up. But those former 4 minutes were great. Just cut the audio there, keep it, and then start from that point that you messed up. You don't have to throw away an entire commentary because you screwed up one line after like 4 minutes. So how you export a file in Audacity is you simply go to File, Export, type in what you want to name it. This is just Test 1. WAV is okay. It doesn't have to be MP3. WAV file is fine. Click OK again, and then go back to Premiere. We're going to bring that audio file we just created into our timeline. So import wherever you happen to put the file. Go find it somewhere. You can easily find it by typing in what you named it. Test 1 was what I named it. Click OK. Go back to our little bin over here. There it is. Test 1. Drag it over into the timeline, and now we are ready to listen to ourselves talk over a gameplay. Make sure, though, incredibly important, that you drop the audio of the gameplay. A lot of commentators don't do this, and it really, really is abrasive on the ears, because you hear like bang, all these loud noises, and the person trying to struggle to talk over it. Drop the audio down. I do -12 or -22 dB. Or another way to do this is in your game to drop the audio down to very, very, very low so you don't crush people's ears when they try and listen to a commentary. So the final step, step 4, guys, is the exporting. Once you have everything completed, once you are satisfied with how it came out, you want to go over to File, Export. This is very difficult for me to explain this because there's so many different variations on the editors. The codec that I use is H.264. This is really just another thing of personal preference, guys. You don't have to use H.264. You can use WMV, FLV, as long as it's going to be high quality. You want to match all the settings that you had from your source footage. So if I want it to be 1280 by 720, I got to make sure right here that it says 1280 by 720. Same thing for progressive scan and frames per second. Hit the export button, sit back, relax, and then upload to YouTube. And that's pretty much all she wrote, guys. Hopefully this tutorial can answer some of the questions you guys had, and a lot of you guys will have as time goes. This community is growing so rapidly, the gameplay commentary community, and the gameplay video community, not just commentary. This will work for everything. If you have questions, this should answer them. If I left anything out, I'm really sorry. I don't think I did. I'm pretty sure I covered most of the content. I wanted to keep this video down to about 15 or 16 minutes so you weren't sitting there drudging through like a 45-minute tutorial. So thank you all so much for watching, guys. Now get out there and make some commentaries and make some gameplays. Take care, everybody.